Welcome to the Anger Solution. In this first lesson, Understanding Anger, we're going to look at exactly what anger is. Following this will be 5 other lessons in understanding and finding the solution to controlling and managing anger. So what is anger is the first thing we're going to look at. And it often starts with this kind of feeling where you just want to scream. So what is anger? See, anger gets a bad rap. It gets blamed all the time. When somebody loses their temper, everyone says he's got anger management issues, as if anger was some kind of outside force that takes over and possesses you, like in some Exorcist movie or something, that you're just totally controlled by it and can't help anything that happens after that. Now, some people do get controlled by anger because they do it so often they create a habit out of it and let it continue to happen. But sometimes anger's a rational thing. Anger is a normal human emotion. And sometimes things happen that cause you to become angry, and there's nothing wrong with it. If your car breaks down on the side of the road and you're stuck, you're supposed to be at a meeting, you may get angry at your car. The question will be, what do you do with that anger? But there are times when it's appropriate to feel angry. So think about it. What are some things that should make you angry? Well, I'm going to tell you a story. When my son was 8 years old, he was out riding his bike and was jumped and pushed off his bike by a group of 13-year-olds. They then stole his bike and he came home crying. Do you think I was angry? You better believe it. I was furious. Got in my car, I tracked those kids down, and honestly, I would have loved to have done great bodily harm to them, but I knew that would just get me in trouble. So I called the police and had them deal with it. Now, there was nothing wrong with me being angry. I didn't get in any trouble for being angry. If I had allowed my anger to control my actions, to control my response, I would have gotten in a world of trouble, because a grown man can't hit a 13-year-old kid no matter what. So it's important to understand what anger is. It's a normal human emotion, but what happens, what you do with that emotion is what will matter. In understanding anything, it's good that we start with a definition, looking in the dictionary, and finding out exactly what words mean is very, very important. So we need to think about this. What is anger? Well, anger, as we're defining it here, is your emotional response of displeasure to a real or perceived injury, insult, injustice, or attack. Now, it's not the feeling of anger that's going to get us in trouble so much as what we're talking about. So when we talk about anger, we're going to distinguish between the anger emotion and our anger response. So we say it's an emotional response. Anger is your emotional response. You're having an emotion and you're responding to that emotion. And that emotion is coming from a feeling that you encounter, a feeling of displeasure, something you don't like. Now, this may be a real thing that happened, or you may just be something you think happened. Your thinking is what then gives you that feeling, whether it really happened or not. If you think someone told a rumor about you, you will feel displeasure. If they really did spread it, you'll still feel it. If they find out they didn't, your thoughts still make you feel angry. And this comes from any kind of injury to yourself, to your ego, an injury, an insult, some injustice, or some attack against you. All of these things are the root of the anger emotion. So let's talk about this anger emotion. See, the anger emotion is that feeling you have inside. It's a normal feeling that everyone experiences. In fact, it's one of many feelings that we have. We might have joy, trust, fear, surprise, sadness, disgust, anticipation, anger. So if you get angry from time to time, welcome to the human race. Welcome to humanity. We do get angry, just like we feel happiness, just like we feel sadness. We feel anger from time to time. There's nothing wrong with the emotion itself. And we have to start at that base with accepting the fact that as a human being, things are going to happen that are going to make us angry. The difficulty with anger is that it is such a powerful emotion that it often overrides thinking. When it comes to our state of mind, we have both emotional feelings and rational or irrational thoughts. The problem with anger is that it's such a powerful emotion that rational thinking is often clouded, and our thinking becomes irrational and respond in ways that get us into trouble, hurt others, and damage relationships. We do and say things that should not be done or said. When irrational thinking takes over, it begins to snowball and get worse and often out of control. When I was angry at that 13-year-old boy for hurting my son and stealing his bike, my emotions wanted to pound that kid into the ground. Fortunately, I was able to get my thinking together, think rationally, and realize that that would not be wise or have a wise outcome for myself. Anger is an emotion that we need to focus on and control because of the possibility of its destructive effects. So we have anger emotions. Anger emotions lead to anger responses. The anger response is exactly what you do with the anger. It's the behavior, it's a thing that happens after anger. The difference between anger and other emotions is that anger is such a powerful emotion that it moves us to action. And unfortunately, often to actions that hurt others. It may result in us getting in fights and screaming matches with people that we care about. They may result in us getting in physical altercations and fights. They may result in us withdrawing and staying by ourselves, or being overwhelmed or overcome even with feelings of depression. The anger emotion can lead to many types of responses. With this in mind, what do you think governs most people's actions? How we think or how we feel? Most of our actions and our responses are based on emotions. We make purchases at the store based on emotions. We respond to others based on how we feel toward them. Emotions are quick and constant. To think about something requires slowing down and considering things, which is actually what we have to begin to do in controlling anger. Is not just let our emotions drive us, but to slow down and begin to think. So let's look at what you can control. Throughout this presentation, we will distinguish between your anger emotion, our AE, and our anger response, our AR. And it's very important to maintain this distinction because you cannot really control your emotions, but you can control your response. You heard correctly. You can't control your emotions. Things are going to happen, and you're going to feel angry. That's normal. That will just happen. But what you can control, however, is how you respond to that feeling. It's important to remember that this is your anger. It's your emotional response. We all have different things that cause us to feel angry. And the reality is, others don't actually make us angry. We may think someone made us angry with what they did, but it's simply how you feel about what happened. How you respond to that feeling will be your decision to make. So the first thing we need to do in managing our anger is learn to activate your rational thinking. And in doing this, we're going to do an activity and what we call using an anger incident tracking form. Now this is best used after an incident, when you can go back and look at it. The benefit of this is that it helps you to learn to slow down and think about things that happen. You may not have thought about them in the time when they happened, but later you can think about them. So you can take a piece of paper, take a notebook, and make 3 columns. The first is going to be the event, and that's going to be what actually happened. Who was involved, where did it happen, what was going on, the who, what, when, where, why, all of those things. You can write those down. The second, under the emotional category, is where you're going to rate your emotion from 1 to 5. 1 being didn't bother you at all, 5 is you are infuriated. And then you're going to write down your response. What was your response? What thoughts did you have? What thoughts went through your mind? And what actions did you engage in? So let's take an example and look at how this might work. So let's say you hear that someone is spreading rumors about you that aren't true. You heard that. How did you rate your emotions over that event? Let's say it was a 5. I'm furious about it. And what was your response at the time? I was thinking I wanted to punch him in the face. I go to him and curse him out. You see? Okay, so that's what happened. So you can look back at that and see how that happened. Here's the same event with a different response. So you hear that someone's spreading rumors about you that aren't true. How would you rate your emotions? 5, furious. So same event, same emotion, but this person responds different. I'm angry, but I don't know if it's true. I ignore the comment and wait a few days, then ask the person if what they said, about what they said and why they said it. Just 2 different responses. This exercise is to help train your brain to understand what's going on so that you can begin to think more rationally and have better and less harmful responses. So you can do this about anything that has happened to you recently. So take some time, get out some paper, think about some time when your anger got out of control, and put it onto these 3 things and be honest with yourself about it. Now let's notice how this process works. First, we have an event. That event leads to an emotion, and that emotion results in a response. This is basically how it looks. Event plus emotion plus response. Now, of these 3 things, which can you control? That's right, only the response. You have no control or little power over the events and the emotions. So let's take an example. You're out driving and you get in a fender bender. Somebody runs into you. You're going to have an emotion. You just can't believe it. Your good car just got banged up. Now, what's your response? Well, you could have one of 2 responses. You can get really angry, get out, threaten the person, want to fight with them. Or maybe you're angry, you're upset, you sit back, you think about it and try to come up with solutions to what happened. All of these things take place. Event plus emotion equals response. And when you go through the form that we did previously on the anger tracking, you can go through and look at incidents and see how you've responded. By doing that, you begin to be able to think ahead of time so that you don't act too quickly. Now that's the end of our first module here. You can go online. The link should be below if you're watching this on video, or if you're on PowerPoint, you can click here to go to the quiz and take the quiz. And we will see you in the next lesson.